Oh, hey. What's up? It's been a minute. Alrighty, well, I'm going to talk about springs, specifically the Eibach Pro Kit, and I like them. So I used to have the RCE yellows, and I thought they were too stiff. However, they were the RCE yellows from an STI, which has slightly higher spring rates, but still, I thought they were too stiff. They made the car too, I guess, bouncy, stiff, but I didn't. It was so uncomfortable that I took them off and went back to stock. And during Black Friday, I was just kind of browsing, bored like we do on the internet because things kind of get slow, and I got a pretty good deal from Rally Sport Direct. Shit, I forgot my coffee. Anyway, where was I? I'm going back home to get my coffee. So anyways, I got a pretty good deal from Rally Sport Direct on the Eibach Pro Kit. One of the reasons why I considered them was because Eibach, because the spring rates were progressive, which, as I understand it, there's a range, there's a lower and a higher range, like 160 to 315 pounds. As the spring compresses, the spring rate increases, so it's lighter when it's fully extended, and as it compresses, the spring rate increases. Hold on, let me get my coffee. Oh yeah, that's good. That's better. Man, if you guys don't do it, you guys should get good coffee beans, get a good grinder, and do French press. That's what I do every morning. Rarely do I ever go to Starbucks or one of the big coffee places. Maybe that's just the hipster in me that wants to go to the smaller, independently owned spots. Anyhow, progressive spring rates made sense to me. The drop was subtle. All I really wanted to do was take out some of the fender gap, but retain the stock ride. Now, the ride quality, I would say it's probably about 20% stiffer than stock. It still does get a little, stiff / bouncy when you hit some bumps, but I guess that's to be expected. I guess that's the behavior when you stiffen your suspension. I know if you do a search for springs or the topic of springs, everyone is all over RCE's nutsack. Everybody loves RCEs. Oh, get RCE yellows, RCE yellows. I race every day. I never wait in traffic. I track my car, never. So, that's the thing, is I sit in traffic the majority of the day. I go to work, I run errands. On the weekends, my family and I, we go places. So, I wanted a comfortable ride, but I just wanted my car to look good while it was parked and while it was rolling. But that's really the main reason why I wanted to get lowering springs, is when I'm in a parking lot, after I park my car and I look back at it, I just want to see, a nice stance and functional. Now, as far as the install is pretty straightforward if you have experience doing suspensions. But before I took it apart, the alignment adjustment on the front struts, I put a piece of tape over the bolt so that I can mark it, so that I could put it back to where it was when I started. And then the rears, you really just want to pay attention to the spring hats and how you align them. So before you take apart your spring hat, before you take apart your struts, you want to just keep notice of where they were aligned. Otherwise, it's not going to fit properly, and you're going to get some weird clunking sounds and stuff like that, which I'll get to in a bit. I am going to get an alignment tomorrow, Eibach recommended that the front install would take 1 hour and the rears would take an hour and a half. Yeah, no, it took me 3.5 hours to do it by myself. But in my defense, I did have to take 2 phone calls while I was doing it, so I wasn't really concentrating, and I had to pick up my kids from school. So, you know, and I cleaned up all my tools and cleaned up my garage, so it took me about 3.5 hours. So when I installed them, but what I did notice after I installed them was that I was getting kind of a weird clunking noise from the rear end. Almost sounded like the top nuts on the mount weren't torqued down enough. It was that kind of clunking sound. But I went back there. It's the first thing I checked. I tightened them down. I got the rear end off the ground. I started shaking all the components. I couldn't reproduce the sound. So I ended up taking the rears apart again and reseating the spring. And what I did notice is that I guess I didn't cut the bump stops enough. So the stock bump stops on my car are 55 millimeters. And if you don't want to do the conversion, that's 5.5 centimeters. And what Eibach recommends is that you trim off 20 millimeters. So that's 2 centimeters. So in the end, you want your bump stop to be 3.5 centimeters. So I guess I didn't trim, there was just a tiny bit that I didn't trim off, but I retrimmed them, made them consistent. I measured them, reseated everything, put everything back together, reinstalled it, and the clunking sound went away. And that whole process took me about an hour and a half. So right on the money with Eibach. One complaint about the Eibach springs is that the instructions kind of sucked. It pretty much just said, take everything apart, put the new springs on, and put it back together. There were no torque specs for anything, and I don't have a manual. I don't know the torque specs off the top of my head. So what I had to do was refer to the RCE install instructions, which do have all the torque specs for the suspension components and, you know, the wheel to the lugs and all that. But overall, I'm pretty happy. During the duration of while I'm talking and blabbing, I'll be showing you some pics. I'll probably like spit some videos in there, me dorking around yesterday. But that's it. I think that's all I have to tell you. So with that, enjoy the sweet music that I made with GarageBand. See ya.